Welcome, everybody, to Inside the Upside Down. Got a fantastic show for you coming up tonight. Shauna is sharing it out, so that's why she's in her phone at the moment, just to let you know. And yeah, I see Shauna has joined the chat.
Feel free to share it out.
Yeah, White Rabbit Notification Squad. Get on it. All right. So, yeah, Adam Tillery's down in the house. Candy Orton. All right. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about time travel this evening. It's been a while since we have talked about that. I looked back, and it's been probably about a year and a half. So, I wanted to hit this up because, well, the show Dark just came out, and that always gets me into a time travel mood. And, well, you saw bits and pieces of it, and we're like, what the hell's going on with this show? But it's relevant to a lot of the things, supernatural and paranormal, that we deal with. So we're going to take us some weird places. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
Sure. She's just here for the ride.
We're frozen.
What's that?
So we're frozen.
No, don't worry about that. We're fine.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. We're fine.
Okay.
See, we're not frozen over here. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got
to
you.
worry. Not to worry. We're all good.
It's like I hear us talking, but our lips aren't moving.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't look at the screen.
Don't look at the screen.
Do you see we're moving down there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then we're fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay, you know I hate.
Yeah, you
freezing.
freak out about all kinds
hate
of stuff. And I'm like, don't
buffering,
worry
I
about
hate
it. There's a
freezing.
green line on there. And
Yeah.
don't worry about that.
This
they don't
is frontier. You never know.
See it. In any case, yeah, so we're going to be talking about time travel and different theories associated with the supernatural. So basically, we've talked about my stack time theory before, and what that is, we'll hit this real quick, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Because when it comes to hauntings, investigating the paranormal, and all that, there's some different interesting ideas as to how we may be interacting with time. So time, in my whole kind of quote-unquote stack time theory, is basically, right now, our conventional way of looking at time is this river of time. You know, we have everything in the past, and we're kind of stuck in it, and there's things in the future that have not happened yet. So in my stack time theory, it's that everything is actually happening concurrently at the same time, just layered on top of each other at whatever place that we're currently at. So wherever we're at, things that we would consider in the past are currently happening. Things that we would consider in the future are currently happening. We just can't always see that and interact with it. Yet there's times in which those moments, there's some sort of echo, for lack of a better term, that happens, and they overlap and intersect, and we're able to see some of that play out, which may be where some of these hauntings come from. And this is where I start getting into the supernatural and the paranormal with this. Are perhaps some of these hauntings that we are experiencing, are they actually almost like a time travel? Like we're having an overlap with another place in time, and so lack of a machine. You know, the thing that I like about Dark,
That show's so weird.
It is weird. It is freaking cool weird. One of their, I guess, catchphrases is "time is an illusion," which I believe is true. Time is an illusion. It's a human construct that we've put in place to explain our experience that we're having. So is it possible that when we see an apparition, like when we saw that girl in the hallway at Mineral Springs the other week, it was almost a month ago now. It's been that long, yeah. Was that perhaps her in her time frame walking down that hall and we're seeing her? What do you think?
I don't know. I talked to her, but she didn't say anything.
She didn't say anything. She came a little closer. You know, I've heard different times, like Andrea Perrin has a great story in one of her books about seeing apparitions sitting at a table, and they look at her and her mother, and they're like, would you look at that? Like, they're the ghosts. So it was like that overlapping of time. So in a way, you could see traveling from, in a sense, from one time to another, our current time to the past, in seeing this haunting. You're like, what the hell is going on about? Take it away. Take it away. So Janet Simmons wondering about ripples in time. So that's kind of Bree Jones is saying, you're making me think of Q from Star Trek. You say time is an illusion. You humans are so limited. Yeah, that would be a Q sort of thing. So ripples in time, I mean, that's kind of it's almost kind of what we're talking about here, where there's see, ripples kind of goes back to that whole river of time idea, which I don't think of time as a river, but in, I guess, the spirit of that, or
Sorry.
Oh.
Continue.
Continue. With the idea of a ripple in time, something, okay, it's almost like butterfly effectish, right? Is that a word? Effectish?
It is now.
Where you have an event happen here, right? And over, the course of, I don't want to use the word time, but I was just about to, throughout that pool of water, those ripples continue to expand and expand and expand till you almost can't even see them anymore, but they're still there. And they've had some sort of effect on the rest of the water. Just by the time it gets to the end, you don't even recognize anymore that over here an event happened, a stone getting thrown into that pool of water. And so that's kind of the idea that in time, an event has happened and has affected things way the heck out here. The thing about dark is they've taken that to the nth degree, where in a time travel scenario that an event has happened in the future that affects the past, and they get caught up in this really warped situation in which you have people that were born in the 2000s going back in time to become somebody's father, or somebody that's a teenager now in like 2019.
Like, I've never seen it until, but I'm like, whatever the scene was, I was like, I'll bet that his mom. That's his mom right there. I've never seen this show, but I'll bet that woman right there that he's about ready to make out with, that is his mom.
It was his aunt.
It was his aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, dun, dun, dun,
Right. Which, I mean, that's basically what happened was the little kid, I mean, there's a lot of time travel going on back and forth, but basically the little kid, Mikkel, went back in time, grew up, had his own child, and that child basically ended up dating his sister, in the future, which would have been his aunt. So, yeah, it's weird stuff, but we could get onto predestination too, where basically you're like your own mother, your own father, your own. Yeah,
that movie.
There was some twisted shit in that.
I had to shake that one off after watching it that first time. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, nope.
So Tammy Heitzman asking, so do you mean like the multiverse, layers of time happening simultaneously? And Katie Birdie saying, ghost behind me. Yeah, the one from Tanya Sargsyan.
Yeah, that's. I love that thing.
No, I'm actually not talking about the multiverse. The multiverse is one that I actually don't buy into. And that's because, so the idea of the multiverse, it's more convoluted than the idea of parallel universes, because parallel universes, you can have a finite number of parallel universes. In a multiverse, it is like a parallel universe, but in the sense that every time I make a decision, it spawns off another universe. So let's say that all right, here we go. I have 2 batteries, right? So I can elect to continue to hold on to them, or I can put them down. Now that decision there would have just spawned off 2 different universes. So the one continuing to hold them, and then the other putting them down, each created their own universe. Simultaneously, by the way, Shauna's over there touching her phone. Now, she could have elected to put her phone down or continued to, kind of do her thing with it. So simultaneously, we're each creating these different universes based on our different decisions. We have thousands and thousands of decisions that we make every single day. So that would be thousands and thousands of universes I would be creating every day. That's just me. There's over 7 billion people in this world every single day. So that would be essentially, I know there would be some finite number out there, but it's so massive, you could basically say that there would be an infinite number of parallel universes currently going on right now, and I just don't believe that.
It's like a giant choose your own adventure.
Yeah, sure, there's a minuscule difference between the mic that was holding this out and the mic who put that down, but I mean, come on, each one of those would spawn off a different universe, or they're going to be rules applied to this, like no, those little minuscule decisions don't matter. It's like the big things, like when you decide to move or something like that. It's like, well, now we're putting rules on it. So I don't buy into the multiverse thing. Parallel universes in let's say that when the world was created, the universe was created, for lack of a better term, when the universe was created, that there were other universes created at the same time, like whoever created everything or whatever created everything, whatever you believe. Like, let's say that entity created 10 universes. Okay, now I can get on board with parallel universes. That's fine, because you have 10 of these things out there doing their own things, and they all, become whatever unto themselves. So there may be another mic out there doing whatever. But the idea of every decision I make spinning off another universe, no. So, Kathy Siliento, stop the madness. Stop creating all these universes. I'm getting very confused. I know.
Yeah, let's just pay attention to just one right now. Just being okay in one of them is bad enough.
Yeah. Candy Orton. And this is directed to you.
Right.
And in every single one, Frontier sucks.
I know that's going to be true.
Oh, that is very true. So Daniela Stas, today I can only say a quick hello, but we'll look at the replay later. Thank you very much. So Tammy Heisman saying, I guess I never understood the difference between the two. Thank you. You're welcome. I know it's kind of confusing. Really, it's all theoretical at this point in time. Just like right now, the idea of time travel there's a lot of different theories on it. You can even go back to the Future, because we all know what makes time travel possible, right? The flux capacitor.
Yeah. So we just got to make one of those.
We just need a flux capacitor in a DeLorean.
In a DeLorean, yeah.
And there we go.
There it is.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So with all these different theories, which one is the right one? We don't know. Something that I brought up with Vanessa when we did the rabbit pellet. This kind of goes back into more the supernatural type of stuff. We did a rabbit pellet on dreams. And there have been times where when you have dreams, they seem so real that you almost visited somewhere. Is it possible, because people have talked about, being able to astral project while they're asleep, or, premonitions, is having a premonition traveling into time and actually seeing a future happen? Is that perhaps time travel? But I don't know.
Well, I don't know the answer to that. If I knew the answer to that,
Oh, I'm just throwing out different ideas.
I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I do not have the gift of sight. I cannot see into the future.
Oh, you've seen a few things. Come on now.
Bad lucky guess. I can honestly say that I do not have all the answers. I'm fine
Nobody
with that.
does.
Nobody does. I will never say that I do, and anybody who says they do is full of it. Just putting that out there.
Tim Schoen. And in all of those parallel universes, Mike still says, "Hunter a roast. It helps young ghosts." Thanks, Tim. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, and it's entirely possible. So, just to give an example, there was a investigation that I did years ago at a historic house that I actually had a dream about doing an investigation there, like 3 or 4 months before I even knew this house existed. So, was that just, my brain picking up on some vibe in the universe that told me that I was going to go there? Or did, in my unconscious state while I was asleep, did I actually travel to the future and actually see that happen and see that play out? It's possible that that was a type of time travel. Because I do believe that it's more, it's not so much of a machine, where, okay, there was the DeLorean from Back to the Future. The show I was talking about earlier, Dark, they have a couple of different things. They have the time machine, or they have a tunnel that they go into through a cave. But it's, each one of those is a different mechanism to get there, where I think a lot of times it's just a state of mind. If time is just an illusion, then all of it is just a state of mind. I don't know if you've seen the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it?
But I've never seen it. Oh,
we'll have to watch it sometime. In that, it was completely a state of mind. What he did, because he had to meet this woman. She approached him at this play that he was doing, and this is another one of, we'll get into bootstrap paradoxes here in a little bit, which basically is something like an object that gets passed around in time so much you cannot figure out the origin of where it came from. And that one was the pocket watch in Somewhere in Time. Ironically enough, there's a pocket watch in Dark that's a bootstrap paradox. So she approaches him at the play, and he just doesn't understand, why and what she was about, because, she says some different things to him. So he looks her up and, discovers who she was, and is just mesmerized by this woman. So he comes across, or remembers from a class that he had, or what was it? He went to her house and saw the book. That's what it was. He went to her house, saw the book there, because there's somebody that's caretaking for the house. It had to do with time. And the person that wrote the book was a college professor of his. So he went to go talk to the college professor. And the professor was telling him was about putting yourself actually into that complete state of mind of being in that time. And he went so far as to basically, he got to go back to, it was the early 1900s. He got into a suit of that time frame. The pennies that he put in his pockets and all of that were from that time frame. He did up the whole room with things from that time frame, so that his mind would get into, I am at that time. And it finally sent him back to that time. It's really interesting. So, Kathy Ciliento, do you think we would be able to go so far into the future where time is non-existent? Wonder what would happen. Interesting, because if time is just an illusion, then it doesn't really exist anyway. So if it doesn't really exist, then what do we have to worry about it not being non-existent in the future? I think in the future we'll have a better understanding of what time really is, and we'll be able to, I don't want to say manage it better, but we won't have to have such a restriction, because we're restricted by time. That's another thing. Time is God in that Dark show. Time is God, which is kind of ironic and funny to the way we live our lives, because time is God. We have this show start at a specific point in time. You go to work at a specific point in time. Time rules our lives. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, let's see what else you guys have down here. scroll back in the chat here, or actually scroll forward in the chat since this doesn't scroll. So Tammy Heitzman, so do you think it's possible then that our energy or spirit goes to another parallel universe when we pass, or maybe ghosts are a combination of both other universes and spirit from our universe? Sure to explain all the various types of entities. Yeah, so that's a good question. It's kind of almost the, I mean, it's really what happens when we die type of question. So I know we've talked before about reincarnation, about past lives, but there's possibly some place that we go in between, which I believe there is. So, and don't say you don't know, because I know you don't know. I don't know either.
I'm just listening.
Where do you think we go? And I said you can't say you don't know.
Wonderland.
Wonderland.
I think we fall down the rabbit hole and we play for a little while, and then we get summoned and we come back. We're like, hey,
down the rabbit hole, not up on a cloud, huh?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I've been playing long enough. It's time to go up and see what's going on topside. And then, you go up and you're like, wow, things look different. Why is everybody so mad that I haven't been around? It's like you guys wonder, if someone really, really close to you guys and like years go by and you don't even hear anything out of them. That's why I always wondered, what was so wrong that someone that I was so connected to in life couldn't visit me in a dream or haunt me or something, yet complete strangers will visit me every day. Like Molly, for example, over there. So like she's with me every single day. Rita fortunately visits, but then, I've had family that's died, and like other friends I've been really close to that's died, and Julie died 8 years ago today, and I've seen her like twice in my dreams. I have never experienced her in any other form. So, why can't someone that you're connected to? Is there like a rule with that? I know other people have, visits from family. Why don't I get that? How come I don't get that?
I don't know.
That's not a time travel question, but it bothers me.
So Chanel Fletcher says, premonition isn't time travel. It's just a glimpse of what can or could happen. We all have deja vu in pieces in our life. Yeah, we do get deja vu from time to time. And, is that, I guess the question is that because, okay, we're just getting a glimpse in our mind of something that, may or may not happen, or is it maybe we've spent a past life there, or is it we have traveled there at some point, maybe in a dream state? I don't know. Did we astral project somewhere? I'm saying that premonitions could be a type of time travel, because how are we actually seeing it? It's the mechanism. It's not like, we'll go back to some of the conventional, okay, we get in a time machine and we go to some place, it's still a glimpse of that place. So Michael J. Fox interacted with the past, but he could have just stood there and watched and then gone back. That would have been just a glimpse, and the mechanism was the DeLorean. So the mechanism that I'm talking about here to be able to see that is just your mind. If it's all just an illusion, if what we're seeing right now is just the veil pulled over our eyes to fool us from the truth, then this is all. There's theories about we're just all in the Matrix, or a similar type of thing. In that what we're really seeing is not the real world. It's just kind of the wool pulled over our eyes. So if any of that is true, then that kind of like what I was saying with the stack time, everything happening at one point, or at the same time. It's just a matter of being able to access that. The mind being one way to be able to access that rather than taking a vehicle there. Or a little glowy box that has little spinners and stuff. So it's just a mechanism. All right. There's a lot of stuff that's popped in here. So Tim Schoen, if its time is merely an illusion, how does that account for spirits and residual haunts? So residual haunts would be just a recording. So that's just playing something back. That's like playing music or a video or something like that. The spirits, and this is kind of what we were talking about before. This is like when we see a particular spirit, like we saw that girl, or you've seen Byron, and you saw him in his garb.
Yeah.
From that time. Is that illusion being broken right there? That we're seeing that time. One of the big questions that we ask that we rarely get an answer to is, what time is it? What year is it? And how do you see this room right now? That's a question we ask a lot. But what do we usually get?
I only have the one where the spirit in question was talking about things as if it was his time period still.
And that was interesting. That was at the inn in Campsville. And go ahead and tell that, because that's kind of interesting where you actually did get some feedback, because it's rare that we actually get feedback about a time and place.
Yeah. I think that's been the only time that's ever happened for me.
And I'll get a chance to share it out.
Yeah, but Tanya Haynes is in the chat. I saw her, and she knows the Campsville Inn very well, just like I do. But we investigated there a handful of times, and we were upstairs, and it used to be, there were some living quarters upstairs. It used to be a hotel, the Bryn Hotel, and there was and I don't know his first name without digging into the history of it, but so we will just call him Mr. Bryn right now, since the hotel is named after him. And he had a heart attack while counting money upstairs in his room. So we took some money up there as a trigger object, and didn't say how much was sitting on the dresser, but said that while we were there, if he could tell us how much was sitting on the dresser, we'd leave it there for him. We ended up leaving it there for him anyway, just because I felt like we probably should, because we weren't good. He didn't say anything out loud, so we would have had to leave it there anyway, just in case. And but one of the questions that we asked was, who's in the room with us, first of all, because you always ask that, or you should. And we didn't know it then, but on the audio, he was just direct answers to our questions. And he didn't give his first name, but he said Bryn, and it was a male's voice, and it was very clear. Like, there was no whisper about it. It was a man saying the last name Bryn. And so we waited a little bit, because we didn't hear anything. And then we introduced ourselves, and then we said, do you know what place we're in right now? Do you know what this building is? And again, he said Bryn. And so, we had explained, this right now, the building that we are in is called Louise Campsville Inn. It's a restaurant, but we know that it used to be a hotel. So, and we had some other audio after that, but to him, it was still his place. This is my last name, do you know what place this is? Bryn, that's, to me, he was saying, that's what this place is. This is still my place. So we went, on to kind of explain some of the stuff that we were seeing and some of the stuff that, happens, because I used to go there all the time, probably several times a week for as long as I can remember. And we were explaining, different things about the building and about the business as it was then. So yeah, I don't think that he saw it as what we saw it as. I think it was just one of those overlap, or wow, whatever you want to call it. It was his place, but we were somehow in it. So he was able to hear us because he answered us directly whenever we asked him. not out loud, but
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
like he was back at his own time in that place when he lived there.
yeah. And we also heard the money move on the. There was also some other things that happened while we were kind of kicked back on the bed, kind of. There were some other things that happened that night too from certain spirit, and I don't know if it was him or not. Whoever it was got a little familiar. Place used to be a brothel. Also, I guess when it was a
Oh, there you
hotel.
go.
So I think it might have been one of those passing through or whatever. But anyway, yeah, that room had a lot of activity in it, and including the money being moved. Whenever we left the recorder, we heard some movement in the room. We left the recorder running. We had several recorders that night. We heard footsteps come near the recorder, and we put coins, because you can hear coins move better than you can hear paper, So we put coins, and they had definitely moved when we left that room, and there was nobody else up there because the cafe was still open at that time too. And we just went from one place to another and just left the recorders running. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good example of a possible overlapping there of, one time into another, that he could have been, an existing being at his time, not necessarily a spirit haunting in your time frame, but possibly he was living in his time frame and experiencing you as a spirit.
Yeah. Remember when we were at Beardstown Opera House and we were talking I don't remember if we were going up or we were going down or whatever, but I was like, I wonder, if they see us as we are now, or if we're just like these, the outlines or shadows or whatever we show up as, but yeah, we're doing the footsteps. Do they hear that, but do they not see us?
Right.
So I always wonder that. That's why I always ask. Well, we always ask, can you see me? What color shirt am I wearing? Can you tell me something about me to let me know how you see me? And I even ask, am I just a shadow? Do I look just like a shadow? Do I have any color at all? Can you see my face, my features? Can you see anything? Do I look like you? What do you look like?
Yeah, and we'll ask about the state of the room. Do you see it, maybe it's in a disheveled state. Do you see it as a, disheveled right now, or do you see it brand new? Do you see, maybe this door is a certain color? Things like that. Just trying to confirm, where in time we are, but we don't necessarily, say, hey, we're trying to confirm that, because that might be a little confusing. But we're just trying to confirm, some physical aspects of the area to see how they respond.
So then maybe we should just ask them sometime if they believe in time travel.
Yeah, there you go. Just throw that one out there. You never know. They might.
What do you think of time travel?
Yeah.
Do you believe in time travel? We've asked spirits if they believe in ghosts before.
Amanda Donaldson saying we've experienced dinner parties at Fairy Plantation many, many times. I believe that. So we do have some other questions and comments down here in the chat. Bree Jones, what about the concept that time was created by humans to understand our universe? We created days, hours, weeks, watches. There would be none of that without humans inventing it. Even rationalizing sun, sky, moon cycles was a human concept. Yeah, that was a point that we made earlier in the show, that time is a human construct to explain the experience that we're having right now. To be able to conceptualize in our minds, because humans love to categorize and organize everything, to be able to explain the way that we perceive everything right now.
Yeah. So then what happens if there's so many people in the world that believe that time is what it is, and that's why it is? Then if everybody just for 1 minute stopped believing in it the way that we've been programmed or the way that we've labeled it, would everything just all of a sudden bloop?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could get into the idea of a thought form. Does this human construct of time exist because we put it into existence with our thoughts? That because humans thought it, that it became.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Andrew Cox, can spirits of loved ones show up a few days before you show up for an investigation? Sure, I don't see why not.
Yeah, they can do anything they want,
right.
I think.
So this is a interesting one from Kathy Ciliento. If time is an illusion, then how could time travel exist? Ah. I think that goes back to the fact that we have to kind of categorize everything again. Yeah, if time didn't exist, it wouldn't really be travel, but we call it travel right now because that's how the human mind has conditioned itself to think of things. So, right, if just everything was all here at the same time, take our idea of time, hours, minutes, all of that out of it, and we could see everything, because I really believe that there's so much more around us that we can't see with our human eyes. You took all of that out of the equation, then yeah, there wouldn't be a need for that. But that's not the way we're perceiving the world right now. So even if it's just a thing with the mind to be able to go somewhere, it's still the way we perceive things going somewhere. So that would be the travel part of it. So.
I'm gonna need some chocolate after this.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some
I'm
chocolate.
gonna need some chocolate anyway, but I'm gonna need some after this.
Well, it's kind of like, I'm trying to think. There's like those. What movie was that where, they figured out all they had to do was basically, when they figured out the whole time travel aspect, that basically, because of how the mechanics worked, that they got to a point where all they had to do was think of, in their quest of whatever the hell they were doing, I need this object readily available to me. And instead of like showing the whole, we're going through the process of going back in time to leave it here and that it ended up just showing up. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Now I have that. Oh, I'm going to need this over here. And then it would show up.
Man, I'd love to have that.
Because it basically got to the point where they knew they needed something. They had to go back in time, leave it there for themselves to go pick up later. And so instead of showing all of that happening, it just came up here, showed up there.
Dang.
So I forget what movie that was. Chanel Fletcher, if you paint a red box blue, is it no longer a red box? Just changing the outer doesn't change the original, even to try to strip away the paint. Some of it still lingers. Well, I suppose it is a blue box that had once been red.
Or is it now purple?
Or is it now purple? I don't know. There's the whole, you can get into shredding. There's cat if you want to. You put a cat in a box. Leave it there for a while. Is the cat alive or is it dead? It's a philosophical test and situation in which the cat is both alive and dead at the same time. Because you don't know its current state. So you can't say one or the other until you actually open the box. But while the box is closed, it's both. Yeah. All right. So Justin Brown, there's a popular belief that ghosts may be from the past, a residual energy effect. What do you think of ghosts from the future? Is that a possibility? Yep. If time is just an illusion and doesn't really exist, then some of the hauntings we may be experiencing, this may be why we don't understand some hauntings fully, is that we may actually be experiencing somebody from the future. And I think that is a concept that people forget to try to entertain, because we're stuck in this idea of we're trapped in the river of time. So if there's a spirit there, it has to be somebody who died years ago. But what if it's not that? If we're actually seeing some of these spirits because we are existing at the same time at this location, and just our dimensions or times or whatever are overlapping there for a second. Well, think about this. For that spirit that we're experiencing, if it's somebody from the past, we're seeing, you're seeing Byron, okay? And let's say that it was one of these overlap situations in which you're seeing him in his element in his time. He's seeing you in your element in your time. Guess what? He's seeing you in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the other one that I always throw out there, Andrea Perron's experience, where her and her mom saw those guys sitting at the table and they turned around. Well, you look at that as if they're the ghosts. Well, if those guys were from the past, they would have been seeing the future. So yeah, it's something that I think we forget to actually entertain, is that perhaps what we're looking at are people that don't exist yet in the way that we perceive time. So good question, Justin. All right, so what else do we have here? Scroll down a little bit. Bree Jones, sounds like the room of requirements. You know, Bree, it may have been Harry Potter. That may have been a Harry Potter moment, yeah. So, Justin, time is not merely an illusion. In quantum physics, there's a thing called time dilation. If you look at your watch here on Earth and compare it to a watch on the International Space Station, then it's slightly ahead, right? And that's when you start... What was that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the whole bending space and time, coming out of our orbit, gravity, and all those different things. That would be... See, I think there's a difference between the physics of this and the actual, I guess, supernatural part of it, for lack of a better term. That is a physical... the physics, time dilation right there, where you made a watch go off from what we would normally perceive it as. I think that's different than the whole world just being an illusion, because if time is an illusion, the watch doesn't matter, because that's just a mechanical device invented by humans to try to measure our existence.
Well, I don't know if Jake is watching, but tomorrow when I go to work, I'm just going to show up whenever I want and leave whenever I want, because time is not of the essence. I believe that I can just come and go whenever I want.
That's where, like I said, with Dark, they say time is God. Because if you're not there at the time that you're supposed to show up for work, then you get fired, right?
He would not fire me. I would fire him
so
first.
Time, it's not Medford's that's controlling you. It's time that's controlling you, because you have to be there at that time.
We're going to have a meeting about this whole time business. I want to make him watch the show. He's gonna laugh. Yep.
So Nick Boulay, do you think it's possible that after death you can time travel at will to a particular event or moment that you enjoyed in life, like a childhood memory, as an example? It's a good question, because we hear about, or at least theorize about, like Dave Nunnally has that idea that Cassie did not die at the Mineral Springs Hotel, that she visits the pool there because it was a favorite place of hers to go to when she was young, so she had very fond memories of it. So, given that, is she perhaps there at the pool, but in her time? Or at least maybe what her time would have been when she visited there.
Right, because there's no documentation supporting anybody with her name dying there yet. So I would say that if I were a kid and that's where I enjoyed being, if I could get back there, I would, because that's just sad otherwise.
Yeah. It is. Well, it is sad otherwise. But yeah, it could very totally be that, in any time that we experience her in the pool, that maybe she's just playing around the pool back in, whether it was 1920 or 1930 or whenever, we don't know. That could be. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Dave, and if Dave watches, please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Dave believes that she grew to a full adulthood, and then in her afterlife she's gone back there as a child. So and so that could be. And Nick, I actually would like to think that when we pass and we go on to wherever. And I do I guess like to think that there is a place that we go to for a while and kind of hang out, like you were saying earlier. I do like to think that we are able to kind of go visit places, see the way the world was at different times and all that. I would like to think that we can at least see and experience different aspects of the universe at different time frames before we go back. So, Candy Orton loves Shred. That's how far back I am. Candy Orton talked about the Shredder's cat theory. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Diane Hilbert, I would suffocate the cat. Yeah, probably. That's the idea. Is yes, the cat would suffocate in the box, but we don't know if it's dead or alive yet. At some point, I guess it would die, but you don't know for sure until you open the box. Yeah, Bree, there was a movie about that too, where there was a guy went from the past to stop a crime in the world. He was a ghost from the future. I think it was Tom Hanks' movie. Yeah, there's also the Terminator. He came from the future. Come on, that's another one, Terminator. I mean, yeah, totally. Okay, sci-fi machines, robots, all that stuff. But he came from the future to the past. He basically was trying to prevent the birth of John Connor. And, of course, the dude went back and inseminated his mother. He came from the future to create the child. So that's one where the future has to already exist before going back to the past. I mean, that's just a basic one, the Terminator. We're not even getting to all the other convoluted type of movies and stuff with like Dark, Predestination, stuff like that. Which are really twisted and out there, but that's a basic one there. So Greg Renkin, I know my dog sees things I don't. I'd love to know if she's seen other dimensions or things in our world at another wavelength. And I mean, that very well could be. The animals are experiencing something completely different than what we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those crazy animals. All right, what else do we have here? What about in the science fiction movie saying you age slower in space? Time is different. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things. When you go into like Planet of the Apes, he aged a hell of a lot slower. He ended up back at the planet thousands of years later. Let's see. Hey, this is another one for you, for Jake. This is from Candy Orton. Shauna, if you are working for him in 5 different planes, like planes of existence, do you get 5 paychecks?
That's going to be a good point at the next meeting also. Because that doesn't happen.
Yep. We should determine how many planes of existence, how many maybe parallel universes, right? We mentioned that earlier. How many of those universes that you are working at Medford's, and say, I want to check for each one.
Well, hopefully in one of those universes I'm making better money than I am now.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Chanel Fletcher, I think we should add 30 minutes to each hour, and then we can get more done, make more money, and get longer rest.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I need more hours to each day.
Adding 10 minutes to each hour that I'm at work just so that I can sit down.
Well, I was about to say, yeah, you don't get enough breaks there. She doesn't get any breaks.
No breaks.
She's on her feet for 8 hours.
Slave drivers.
Yeah.
I love you, Jake. He knows I love him. Good thing.
Justin Brown, if an instance of a ghost sighting has to do with a time effect, is this a physical effect or is it a psychic effect? Could it be either or? Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So it's kind of something I was talking about a little bit earlier where, maybe it's just a state of mind and the way we're seeing and perceiving things. When I was kind of talking about, the dream state, possibly being a way to travel to and from the future. If, it very well could just be a mind thing where, we can't, whatever reason our mind hasn't elevated enough to get beyond what we're just seeing in actually perceiving everything that's actually around us, excuse me. So you might call that a psychic effect because it's a mind thing. Maybe it has maybe there are more things we can get into with the pineal gland or what have you. Maybe there's more there to unlock. The whole only using 10% of our brains theory and all that. Has anybody seen Lucy? The with Scarlett Johansson? No, you haven't seen that? Okay. That one explores the using more brain capacity, which ends up maxing out at 100%, and what she's actually able to see and perceive, and within that she does time travel. So that her mind has gotten to the point so developed that everything else is just like whatever. There's even like a car chase scene going on where they have to get to this one place, and and they're in Paris, I think. In any case, she's basically blowing past all these people. There's accidents going on, and the one guy who's a cop with her, he's like, "Aren't you concerned about all these people that are dying in these accidents?" She's like, "Oh, we don't really die." Just boom. So it's like her whole perception of reality is completely different at that elevated state. So more things to ponder and consider.
There's a lot of people going to be going to bed much later tonight because of all this. It's
right.
One of those laying awake in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. Am I really in bed right now?
Are you? Does the bed really exist?
Does the bed really exist?
Right. Yeah, you're looking at a clock, or you're looking at your phone. Are those numbers real?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that really light? Is it? All right, just scrolling down here. So, okay, yeah, see, some of these people here recognize Lucy. So, Melanie Baggy, that's the Haglin, right? Tammy Heisman saying, super cool movie. I want to be able to do that in the chair, zooming from place to place, time to time. Yep, just zoom. Yeah, she was sitting in the chair, zoomed off to New York from Paris, and then she just rolled back the time, and so you got to see New York when it was earlier, and then when there was like Indians, and then when there was like dinosaurs.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just the concepts are very cool. Dawn, I haven't seen that one yet. On Amazon Prime, I Still See You, paranormal sci-fi time travel movie. Okay, I'll have to check it out then. So, yeah, my thing over this past weekend was Dark, which is just completely like in your face time travel show. But just the what I really like about it is not just all the time travel concepts that are within it, but all the human element in it is actually very deep in how they explore the different relationships between all the people and where they came from and where they're going, and how, like I said, there's a lot of butterfly effect stuff in it as well, where one little thing that happened over here greatly affects the rest of everything that happened, not just in the future, but also in the past. I mentioned Bootstrap paradox earlier. We're gonna have to wrap it up soon because I'm starting to lose my voice. Where there's a number of them in this show, where like the guy that created the time machine, he only created it because he was told this is what he would create. There's a book that he's given that he had supposedly written. It's his picture's on it, his name is on it. He is supposed to have written the book, but it's given to him before he has written the book. So eventually he does write the book, of course, and print it, but or publish it, and then he goes on to create the time machine. But where the question is, where did that begin? Who originally gave him the book, or did he originally come up with the concept and then the book was written and then it was given to him later? Because he couldn't have done it all without having seen the book first. But how does the book exist?
Aliens.
There you go. And so there's like two books that are different like that within the show. there's the pocket watch that's getting sent around. That's kind of like the Somewhere in Time references with the pocket watch that basically goes from father to daughter to mother and around. And of course, this is the really twisted thing. The daughter of the mother is actually her mother too. So, yeah. And you could play that one all day. So she's her own mother, her own grandmother, her own, I think, aunt you could throw in there, right? Her own, yeah, it's just really crazy.
I mean, that's because everybody in every family is hooking up. I mean, everybody's trying to hook up with a family member, only they don't realize it's their family member yet.
Right.
or they were, or they're going to be, or something like that. And, no wonder they like each other. They have a lot in common. They're freaking related. So, I mean, it's just weird. It gives me a headache to watch it because I'm always just like,
well, and the
whoa.
problem is, I mean, there are a couple things, because you always like walk into it as I'm watching it. Yeah. So you had seen some stuff from season 1 when I was doing a replay of it, and you're like, what in the world? But more of what you've seen is from season 2, and season 2 makes almost no sense if you haven't seen season 1, and you only saw like some bits and pieces of season 1 to begin with.
Yeah, so I'm like kind of listening, and pretty soon be like, you'll be, when I look up, I'll be like, I don't know who that is, but I'll bet that's his mom.
Yeah.
That's got to be his mom. It's somebody's mom. They're getting ready to hook up. It's his mom. It's obviously his mom. It's his mom that.
Yeah, you'll like zone into a scene and be like, oh, yeah. Good show.
The answer is always,
you guys got to watch it.
Those two are related.
They're all related.
Or
they're all related.
That there's a boy right there, there's a girl right there, but I'll bet in some way he is her.
I think they're all the same person.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're just all the same person. Because there's a point on the show where the one inspector who's from out of town is like, isn't it strange that like, all these people have lived here for all this time, nobody's ever moved, and it's all the same families that are just here. So probably when it comes down to it, it's all the same person.
Clones.
Yeah, they're all clones.
Kind of.
Don Francisco is deja vu time travel. We kind of briefly touched on that a little bit ago. I don't know if it's necessarily time travel as much as it's a recognition of having experienced it. I mean, that's what deja vu is. You're recognizing or something that at least seems like a previous experience from before. I mean, I have had deja vu moments that either seemed like I had already experienced it in my conscious life. I've had deja vu moments that seemed like I had a dream of it, and I'm like, my God, I had a freaking dream of this. It's a deja vu moment. And there's others where it's like, I've been here before. I've never been here in this physical conscious life, but I've been here before, which is like a deja vu of a past life. So it's not necessarily traveling in time at that specific moment. I think it's a recognition of we've been here before, and there may have somewhere in there been some sort of time travel. So there we go. All right. Candy Orton, no branches in that family tree. Yeah. Yeah, there might not be.
Yeah, it's just the tree, but and it doesn't fork or anything like that. It's just...
Well, I think the problem is they did too much forking. Too much forking between like people. In any case, all right. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up at that. So this will later on, if you missed some of this will later on be uploaded to the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. We've been doing that with the past couple of Inside the Upside Downs. We're still kind of playing around with this being on Facebook. It does seem like not having those back-to-back live streams like that have helped the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, because we've seen a lot of other videos pick up and that were like just recorded videos. So we've seen some positive things happen out there, but that doesn't mean that we don't want you guys to have the content. Because the one thing I don't like about the Facebook side of it is that those videos get lost to time. I mean, they end up way down there, and unless you go scrolling on forever, you're going to miss previous shows. So we're going to upload these back to YouTube and see how that goes. The first couple have done okay, but they haven't hurt the channel either, like it was doing when we did back-to-back on Tuesday night. So you can also catch the podcast version out at this show is on Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Google, Stitcher. We're working on getting it on iHeartRadio like we did with Edge of the Rabbit Hole. So you can check all those out, all the shows out there if you're driving or what have you on the podcast. So, all right, everybody. I think it's chocolate time, right? Chocolate.
Yes.
Does chocolate really exist? That's the next question.
It better.
It better.
It tastes like it does.
So that's the one thing that really does exist. Everything else is a lie. But chocolate's real. That's our one truth. Chocolate. And Haunted Road Roast. It helps you hunt ghosts. I think I almost said gunt ghosts.
It's late.
It's late. Coffee's real too.
And I have to go to work at whatever time I want tomorrow.
That's right.
So.
That's right. And get paid 5 times for the 5 different.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to send Jake a message.
Yeah.
He's going to get a message from me, and I'm going to explain it to him. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jesus, I can't even talk. Trying to end the show gracefully and just not at all. Okay, everybody. Have a great night. Till next time.